It's a beautiful fall day, so I'm gonna light up the fire pit, have a fire. It's starting to get a little over full anyway, and while the fire's going, it's a great time to make some charcoal. So for this project, we're going to need some kind of a container, one that's actually very easy and already made is just a small garbage can. You want a metal container with a lid, and you may have to pop a hole in the lid. I don't want to do that with my garbage can, so I'm not going to use this. Another option would be to use a metal container, a pail, and then something that you can put over the top of it, like a lid. This is loose enough that you don't have to pop any holes in it because it's not an airtight seal. I'm not going to use this either. Since I can't do anything the easy way, I'm going to be making ours out of an old propane tank, a busted carriage bolt, an old hinge, and a piece of 1-inch steel pipe. Now that we've gathered up our pieces, the next step is going to be cutting the propane bottle all the way around nice and even. And to do that, I jerry-rigged, and if you don't know who Jerry is, you may want to look him up, this angle grinder with a cutting blade on it on a cinder block, but it's okay. I'm using blaze orange ratchet straps. I'll be wearing safety glasses. Our propane tank is empty, and our pallet here, if you notice, has reinforced metal strapping. So, very safe. Now that we got the top cut off, I smoothed it down so I wouldn't get any slivers. Oh, by the way, for more safety tips and crafts that require safety glasses and the potential for harm, make sure to subscribe. Anyway, next step, putting the hinge on. We're going to get this hinge so I can open and close it like this. I'm going to weld mine because I need all the practice I can get. But if you want, at this point, you can drill and screw a hinge on. Whatever is easier for you. The hinge is all set, and it opens and closes great now. One thing I'm going to do is add a latch to it so when I go to pick it up to carry it, it doesn't fall open. So we'll get a latch put on, and then the next thing I need to do is I cut off the end of the pipe, the threaded end, and a 1-inch thread screws into the top of our can here, our propane bottle. And then I'm going to tack weld the carriage bolt to the top of that pipe. Once that's done, I'll bring you back. By closing off this hole, we're preventing too much oxygen from getting in. That way we don't have a fire inside of the tank. We want everything to basically burn without oxygen, and that's what's going to make our charcoal. So I'm going to close off as many of these openings as I can, and that's also why we wanted the cut around to be as precise as possible, just to keep things contained and closed. It doesn't have to be an airtight seal because there will be gases forming inside of here as things burn. Those gases will leak out all of these little cracks and holes, and those will burn off, but it's not enough to let oxygen in to burn our wood. Okay, so we have our plug in, and we have a latch. That way I can carry this thing around, and you can unlatch it to open it up. So the next step is going to be cut up some wood, stuff this thing packed full of wood, as much as we can fit in here, tight, tight, tight. We'll close this thing up, and then we're going to throw this propane tank into the bonfire. So I cut up a bunch of small pieces of very hard wood. In this case, most of this is blueberry. I may have some oak or maple or whatever you have that's a hard wood. But cut it up into little small pieces. Jam pack your container, no matter what you're using, a garbage can or a makeshift cooker. Make sure it's packed because you don't want any air in there. See how tight this is? I'll just rearrange these, until I can get the top to fit nice and tight. I want to make sure I don't have any air in here. Oh, there we go. And now it's ready to go into a fire. Well, I ripped the fire pit apart a little bit just so I could get the can right in the middle. Now what I'm going to do is just build up around this, get this lit, and we're going to cook everything that's in here, and hopefully when we're done we'll end up with some nice charcoal. While I got the fire lit, I might as well add more brush from our cleanup. I'm not sure how well this will show up on the camera, but if you look around the seam where the top closes and at the very top where I put that carriage bolt in, you'll see flames shoot out every now and then. Those aren't flames that are actually coming from the stuff burning inside. That's the gases from the wood that's inside the container leaking out and igniting. Well, the fire's burnt for about an hour and a half, and it's probably got maybe another half an hour to go, and then it'll smolder for a little while. Because the propane tank is way too hot to touch, what I'm going to do is just let this go out, and I'll check the tank in the morning and we'll see what we've got. It's the next morning. Everything is burnt all the way down, and it's had a chance to cool down. The can's a little bit warm, but it's not hot. Hopefully we cooked it long enough. Normally you want to let these go until you no longer see smoke coming out. It was getting late last night, so we called it early. So we'll see what we got. I'll grab this out of the fire and we'll open it up and see what's going on inside. Okay, let's see what we got going on. I don't know if you can hear that. I'll break a piece. Okay, see how it's shiny. It's kind of hard. It doesn't just crumble in my hands, and it has almost a ringing sound to it when you hit it. That means we've got good charcoal. Now I'm sure there's a few pieces in here that aren't done all the way, or like this one, maybe done a little too much. But we'll go through this and we'll see how much of it's usable. Anything that isn't cooked enough, I can always put aside the next time we do a batch, just throw it right back in again. You can't ruin it. It's either going to be a little too much, so it'll be dusty and you won't get much out of it. Or it just won't be cooked enough, and then you can just cook it a little bit more. But for the most part, this looks pretty good. So we'll dump this out and see how much of it we have. One thing I'm going to do with this charcoal is I'm going to hose everything down and get it wet, just to make sure that if it still has any heat in it, any embers. All charcoal needs to reignite is oxygen, and by taking it out of our propane bottle or your garbage can or whatever you made it in, once it hits oxygen, there's a good chance that it'll reignite. One more thing I like to do, if I take it out of the fire, when it first comes out, you can hear it cracking and popping a little bit, just to make sure all of those don't have any hot embers. And I'm going to close the lid, and I'm going to starve it of oxygen. I'll just let it sit like this until I'm ready to use it. If you let oxygen go to this and there's still any hot coals in there, all of them will just start igniting and you'll end up with a fire. So just to be safe, get it a little bit wet, close up the container to starve it for oxygen, and let it naturally dry. Once it's dry, it's good to go, and you can use it however. You can use it in your forge, you can use it for barbecuing, lots of uses for it. Well, that brings another project to a close. I'm sure it was a lot more difficult than it needed to be, but I love putting things together with garbage I have laying around. I grew up with the A-Team and MacIver, and making stuff that I can use out of garbage that's just laying around is one of my passions. So hopefully I added another tool to your self-reliance tool belt. Knowing how to do this is going to come in handy, hopefully. If you like what we do on our channel, if you like tutorial videos or how-tos, make sure to give us a thumbs up. If you know anybody who likes our videos, go ahead and share, and make sure to subscribe. All three of those really help us out a bunch. Until the next video, I'll see you later.